Hey, everybody, welcome to the True Crime Squad. I'm Christy Brower here with my sister, co host, and partner in crime, Katie Weaver. Hey, Katie.
Hello.
How's it going?
Well, it's going. It
Yeah.
is certainly sweater weather, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Look at the
Yeah,
sweaters.
it
I know it is. Fall has
awesome.
finally landed upon us. The weather's lovely and cool,
Yeah.
and
And we have
and
our
it's kind
first
of
fall
rainy.
fair
We
on
do have our first fall
Saturday.
weather.
So if you're local to us, definitely come. We're going to Mystic Misfits to their brand new location, to their first Saturday of the month fair. And we're so excited.
It's going to be really fun.
I'll
I
have
can't
money
believe it's
restocked
already
by
time.
then. Yeah, me neither. I'm so
I
glad
know.
because it's like we haven't done very many fairs this year. It's just kind of the way the cookie crumbled, but I'm so
Yeah,
excited. We
summer's
have
been real
3 in
busy.
October. Yeah, so
It's going to be super fun.
it is. It's going to be awesome. I have a new craft I've been playing with that I'm really leaning into today, to see if I can
Ooh,
have some pieces ready, and I'm really excited about it. So
that
we'll
is
see. It's requiring
exciting.
some physical strength.
Oh,
I'm such a ridiculous wimp, and then add COVID to it. I got nothing, so I'm gonna enlist Mars.
well, there you go. Just get
A
some help.
toughie
Because, yeah,
for me.
we are both on the mend from COVID because
Hmm.
we took our awesome girls trip, had a blast, came
Hmm.
home, all of us sick with
Every
COVID.
single one of us with COVID. Yep.
Yeah, so thanks,
Yep.
universe, for that.
Hmm.
But that's all right because we're on the upswing now and we're back. We're going to be back with all of our regular
Yeah.
content this week. And
Yeah.
it's fall, guys. We're coasting into a time when we're not on the dead run. And so it's going to be
Yeah.
like we're going to show up with all our episodes every week and stuff.
Not
Weird.
to mention it's spooky season.
Yeah, it is spooky season. No,
All the
wearing
good
my
stuff.
orange sweater. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Very exciting. Well, we have a lot to share. This is our Monday
Yes.
episode, and we've got some stuff for you guys.
Hmm.
So, Katie, I know you're going to kick it off with a true crime news update.
Hmm. Okay. First, we're gonna get to the right page here. Okay.
Oh,
All right. I want to talk to you about the journalist Josh Kruger, who was
yeah.
murdered last night. Josh is a journalist in Philadelphia. He has been a really strong advocate for LGBTQ rights, and lots of other things, but that's the thing that he's been well known for. He was shot in his home and then made it out onto the street trying to get help and was pronounced dead at a hospital. The police got there about 1:30 in the morning. He was pronounced dead about 2:15 a.m. So he had
Mm-hmm.
been writing for the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Philadelphia Citizen, and billypen.com. And he had been writing about education, public art, and LGBTQ issues. He is somebody that was a real success story. He had been, in his lifetime, struggled with homelessness, addiction, HIV, poverty, and trauma, and really used those experiences to turn into the journalist that he was. He also had worked for the Philadelphia city government, for 5 years, working as a spokesman for the Office of Homeless Services.
Oh, wow. He was a
Yep.
hell of a guy.
Yeah, he was a hell of a guy. Yeah. There's no signs of forced entry. The police said that it looks like an intruder had came into his home and shot him, and then he, of course, ran out into the street trying to get help. Um, but no signs of forced entry, so they just don't know. So right now, you know, there's just no one, there's no answers. The mayor, Jim Kenney, said, shocked and saddened by Josh Kruger's death, he cared deeply about our city and its residents, which was evident in his public service and writing. And then the Committee to Protect Journalists also made a statement. They said, we are deeply disturbed by the killing of freelance journalist Josh Kruger and extend our condolences to his colleagues and loved ones. We call on investigators to thoroughly investigate his killing to determine whether the attack was related to his work. And it's a good
Right.
question because journalists have not been safe for a hot minute.
Yeah.
And it's just
Absolutely.
really, it's scary and it's sad. It's sad that he beat so many odds and he was so devoted to people in his city and marginalized groups, particularly really working with and helping the homeless. And how sad.
Yeah. Really, really sad. That's a big loss for Philadelphia.
It is. I'm glad that the mayor made a statement because that means that the mayor is leaning on law enforcement to solve this. And
Yeah.
if the mayor cares, law enforcement cares typically.
It's true.
So
True.
hopefully there will be an answer and some justice for Josh. But as always, sending so much love out to his family and everybody who loved him and knew him. It's a hell of a loss.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
Yeah. So with that, I'm going to kick the mic back over to you for our main case.
Yes. Well, friends, this is what we call a racial injustice case. Let me introduce you to the Mississippi Goon Squad.
Oh dear
These
Lord.
jackasses right here are all former Mississippi police officers, Rankin County deputies mostly. Let's see. From the top left, we have former Rankin County Sheriff's deputies Hunter Elward, Christian Dedmon, Brian McAlpin, he was a detective, by the way, Jeffrey Middleton, Daniel Opdyke, and former Richland police officer Joshua Hartfield. And this is them appearing in court. Let's see. At the Rankin County Circuit Court in Brandon, Mississippi. This was on Monday, August 14th, is when these photos were taken. These police officers have pled guilty to state charges for torturing two black men in a racist assault that ended up with a deputy shooting one of the victims in the mouth.
Oh my God.
This happened back in January of this year. Now that they have pled guilty, they are also facing federal hate crime charges,
Uh-huh.
which are much bigger because unfortunately, the charges in Mississippi are they're looking at something like 5 years for what they've been charged for excessive force.
Were these the guys that were targeted for visiting a friend while black?
Yes,
Okay, that's what I
yes.
thought. Okay.
Two black men were seen going into the home of a white woman in Rankin, Mississippi, because sure, people can visit their friends, go to people's houses.
Yeah.
A neighbor called one of these officers to say they saw this. These men at some point had been known as the Goon Squad, and they would show up to cause problems for black people simply because they are racist pricks.
Mm.
They showed up at this house, they entered the house without a warrant and without permission.
Mm-hmm.
They found these men, they physically attacked them, tortured them for a long period of time
Yeah.
for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
One of them actually shot one of the victims in the mouth.
Yeah.
And then they had the gall to arrest them and try to take them to jail. The victims,
Mm-hmm.
who were completely innocent, sitting on the couch of their friend.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. You can get the. It's really pretty gruesome what they did, and I just hope for the victims that they've been able to get the help that they need, and I hope that they get an absolute boatload of cash
Yeah.
from from Mississippi over this, because now that they have um, pled guilty,
Mm-hmm.
that's where we'll go
Yeah.
next. This is going to cost millions of dollars
Mm-hmm.
to the city, to Rankin, to the state of Mississippi. And I mean, I think good. It
Yeah.
should.
It should
Um,
because this was by far not the first issue they'd had with these guys.
no,
This was just
no.
being ignored and allowed and had been for
Yeah,
quite a while.
yeah.
Ugh.
They have been getting away with this crap for a long time. They've been known to force entry, torture, and sexually abuse suspects. They use clean throwdown weapons, so they bring weapons to plant. They've been known to plant evidence, beat suspects to coerce confessions, steal property, and conspire to create cover stories and obstruct justice. These are the things that they are um, have been accused of, not
Mhm.
just in this situation, but in others.
Yeah.
The question now is how many other victims are there?
Mhm.
Because this case was so egregious, there was no ignoring it. But there are lower level versions because we've seen this how many times now,
Yeah.
over and over and over again. So there
Yeah.
will be other cases, I'm sure.
Mhm.
The people in Mississippi are pretty concerned about the financial costs, but maybe it would be time to clean the trash out of your law enforcement if you think
Yeah.
that this stuff is going to be allowed because it isn't. We're done.
No.
No
Yep.
more. It never should have been, and it's not going to be tolerated anymore.
No. No. In any state. This is just not. This is old news.
Yeah,
This stuff that can't keep happening. And yeah, it's going to cost you guys a lot, but you allowed it.
yeah, you did. And it is fully believed that there are other officers that were well aware that this was happening,
Oh, of course there
that their
were.
superiors knew,
Mhm.
and that no one stopped this to the point that, I mean, it nearly resulted in a man's death. I mean, the fact
Yeah.
that he was shot in the face, in the mouth,
Mhm.
and lived is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
For
they have pled
nothing.
guilty.
Nothing at all. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
pretty
And
amazing to me that they pled guilty.
well, apparently they're getting some kind of a deal out of it,
Oh, they'd have to be, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the federal hate crime will go a long ways.
Yeah.
And then the civil suits
It
as
will.
well.
With those charges, they're going to go to prison for a long time.
But it still just makes me so sad for their victims. They should have never had to go through this.
No, I cannot imagine the damage and the long term toll,
Yeah.
trauma toll that this has on the victims, on their friend who this happened in their house, to their friends and
Right.
family members. Anybody that knew
Mhm.
that this happened and knew these people would be absolutely terrified.
Oh, their friend must have felt horrible about this.
I can only imagine. One of the statements made on behalf of the victims was the deputies, in the repeated use of racial slurs in the course of their violent acts, were oppressive and hateful against their African American victims. Defendants were motivated on the basis of race and color of the skin of the persons they assaulted. There's no doubt now that they, in fact, committed this as a hate crime.
Sure.
I mean, it is stunning to me that there are people in this country who still think they can get away with this. And you know why there are still
Mhm.
people in this country who think they can get away with stuff like this?
Because they
Because
are.
there are people in this country getting away with shit like this right now.
Yeah.
How
Every
many
day.
other goon squads are out there?
Mhm.
I mean, how many have we seen broken up
Well,
just this year? The
that one
Scorpion
in
unit
Memphis.
with
Yeah.
Tyree Nichols. But this is not a one off. This kind of shit is happening. And it's time to take a look in our own
Mhm.
communities.
Absolutely.
But all I can say is good riddance for these
Yep.
morons forever.
Sh
Hopefully with
prison.
hopefully their federal time will take them away forever.
Yep.
You can't live in our society and behave like this. We're not going
Nope.
to tolerate it. We're done. The shit is over. It should never have happened to begin with, but
No.
we're not tolerating this shit ever again. It's absolutely stunningly horrifying to me. So, I wanted to put the main focus on the fact that they are going away. They're going to
Mhm.
prison.
Yep.
And anyone who wants to behave like that, you're going to prison too.
Yep.
So good luck with that.
Yep.
And with that, I'm going to kick it back to you for another true crime news update.
Yeah. Well, you may remember this young lady. Her name is Gypsy
Oh,
Rose.
yes.
And Gypsy Rose has been in prison for assisting her boyfriend in murdering her mother, Dee Dee. And Gypsy is going to receive early release and be released, it sounds like in December of this year.
Yeah.
And that's at about 7.5 years. She was ordered to serve 10, so she served a great deal of her sentence. And now, if you're wondering, how in the hell can somebody only get 10 years for murdering their mother and get out in 7.5? Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
This poor Gypsy had the most horrific upbringing. It's unbelievable.
It really is.
So, Gypsy's mother had Munchausen by proxy, which meant she was making Gypsy sick on purpose and also just lying blatantly about Gypsy's health, convicting doctors of all kinds of shit, falsifying documentation, and keeping Gypsy under absolute threat that she wasn't allowed to speak, she wasn't allowed to stand from her wheelchair, she wasn't allowed to do anything, keeping her poor little head shaved, telling everyone she had leukemia. She had a
Making her use a
hellish,
wheelchair.
making her use a wheelchair. She had a hellish upbringing. And then she got a boyfriend who was a fair amount older than her. And when he came to see her, they had the most marvelous and magical time. But of course, she couldn't really have a boyfriend and really have a life with this all going on. And they came up with a plot to murder mom. He is in prison indefinitely, it sounds like.
Right.
But she's getting out. I wanted to share a few facts about this family. There have been some documentaries done. If you want to check them out,
A
there's
bunch.
definitely
Yeah.
a bunch about this family. But the fact that she's getting out now is interesting. I've been reading on Twitter very mixed responses from people.
Yeah, I've kind of been wondering. I'm going to post on our social media about it this week, and just what do you think about her getting out?
Yeah, yeah, it's curious. I mean, a lot of people feel like, yeah, you know, she was literally freeing herself from her captor and her
Yeah.
abuser, and other people are like, well, yeah, but that doesn't mean you can murder someone.
Right.
But let me share some facts about Dee Dee that you'll find interesting. This
Mm.
is from mommyish.com. Uh, Dee Dee got pregnant with Gypsy when she was 24 and her boyfriend was 17. Gypsy Rose was born in 1991. When she was 3 months old, her mother came convinced that she was sick, that she was suffering from sleep apnea. She took her for a whole bunch of different tests and hospital stays, and doctors just completely across the board agreed there was nothing wrong with her.
Mm.
This started at 3 months old.
Wow.
Then her mother was convinced she had an underlying and undiagnosed chromosomal disorder that she did not have, that she was just determined for this baby to be sick. When when Gypsy Rose was 7 or 8, she was involved in a minor accident with Grandpa on a motorcycle, and she only had a minor abrasion on her knee, but really kicked her mother into action, and she soon underwent the first of many surgeries for imaginary illnesses. This is when the wheelchair started. However, the uncle said she had actually been on and off in a wheelchair since she was 5, but
Wow.
that she was absolutely healthy enough to walk on her own and didn't need the wheelchair at all. The family was always puzzled by it, but mom was insisting that she be in the wheelchair.
Hmm.
She stopped letting her go to school around kindergarten,
Mm.
partly because she lied about Gypsy's age to make her seem younger than she was.
Oh, wow.
But she started homeschooling Gypsy very early on, and she claimed that she simply couldn't go to school with all of her disabilities and illnesses. One of the things she would tell people is that she only had the mentality of a 7-year-old when she was a teenager. None of that was true.
No.
Gypsy taught herself to read using Harry Potter books because, she was homeschooling. Heavy on the
Right,
mark,
which was
air
just,
quotes. Yeah, she
yeah,
wasn't
not
schooling her at
schooling.
all. But get this, Dee Blanchard was suspected of poisoning her own mother and her stepmother.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
She'd been in trouble for writing bad checks and other like retaliatory things she'd done to family members when they didn't give her what she wanted. But in 1997, her relatives started to believe that she had played a hand in her mom's death by starving her. And then after her father remarried, Dee Dee and Gypsy moved in with them after her marriage ended. And while they lived there, the stepmother got sicker and sicker and sicker. And the family believed that she was putting Roundup in mom's or stepmom's food.
Oh my God.
So they confronted Dee Dee and she fled with Gypsy. And guess who stopped being sick after that?
Stepmom.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's terrifying that she ran then with Gypsy and focused all of her energy on Gypsy and,
Yep.
just continued the insanity.
Yep. So here's some of the illnesses that Dee Dee insisted that Gypsy had, besides sleep apnea: leukemia, muscular dystrophy, asthma, vision and hearing impairments, epilepsy, developmental disabilities, and partial paralysis. None of which she had.
Wow.
Dee Dee, you typically told people that Gypsy was 4 to 6 years younger than she really was
Wow.
because she was small.
Mm-hmm.
She was small
Well,
and had a, well, right, with all the shit she'd been through.
right. Probably stunted her growth.
Yeah. Uh, she was scared to death of her mom and scared to death of the repercussions. And so she did not speak up. A lot of people, some of the complaints about Gypsy that people have made are that she didn't even speak up and tell the doctors there was nothing wrong with her. Well, she was a child,
She was
she was
an abused
abused,
child.
and she had a mother who was grooming her to believe these things. And so you
Right.
just can't,
Mm-mm.
you can't blame her for that at all.
No.
She
No.
even convinced the doctors to put a feeding tube in her.
Yeah.
She had her salivary glands removed because her mother said she drooled. They had the feeding tube placed in her tummy. She had multiple eye surgeries on the left and right eye, ear surgeries,
Jeez.
muscle biopsies to find out why her legs didn't work, a surgery to make her not throw up anymore.
What's crazy about biopsies and like those kinds of tests and stuff, they can tell that things are reacting normally. Like
Hmm.
that's not, you can't fake a test like that.
Well, and all these unnecessary surgeries, what the hell?
Yeah.
But they moved quite a bit
Right.
and had new doctors and new hospitals constantly.
Sure. As soon as somebody got a little suspicious, then it was time to move on.
Yeah, yep. Part of the problem is that Hurricane Katrina hit and told doctors that flooding had destroyed all of Gypsy's medical records, even her birth certificate. Yeah. In Katrina, their apartment was destroyed.
That a lot of those things, including the birth certificate, can be recreated. I mean, it's not like,
Yeah. But
wow.
because of Katrina, their story got all of this national news attention, and they started getting all kinds of help and donations.
That's right.
And Habitat for Humanity built them a new home with wide doorways and ramps to accommodate Gypsy's wheelchair. They received a bunch of money, awards, a bunch of recognition from different charities and help. They got a free trip to Disney, a wheelchair accessible car, concert tickets, backstage passes, a make a wish. they received some attention and some help from Elijah Wood, Blake Shelton, Miranda Lambert, who actually, Miranda Lambert wrote a personal check to Dee Dee and Gypsy for $3,500. All of these people trying to help this poor girl who was supposedly so terribly disabled, and their house
Well,
was
and her
destroyed.
mother, who's such an angel.
Katrina, yeah,
Jesus.
yeah. It's just unbelievable. So Dee Dee made good friends with the next door neighbor, Amy. And she told Amy that she had fled her abusive family and that her father had burned Gypsy with cigarettes.
Mm.
Just keeps the lies going. She told her that Gypsy's dad was a deadbeat alcoholic who used to make fun of her disabilities and called the Special Olympics a freak show and just started saying all these things. She said that Rod had never given her any money to help Gypsy or help with her medical care, which was none of that was true. Rod had tried and tried to keep a relationship with Gypsy, but Dee Dee didn't want him to. Well, yeah, right?
Right. She didn't want him asking any questions.
He continued to send $1,200 a month in child support every month, even after she turned 18, because she was disabled. So all of this talk that he was a deadbeat is completely wrong.
Yeah.
So in 2007, a pediatric neurologist named Bernardo Flasserstein got involved in her case, and he just smelled the bullshit real fast from their first meeting. And so he ordered a whole bunch of tests and scans, and they all came back normal. So he made Gypsy stand in his presence to verify she could hold her own weight. And in his notes, he wrote, "There is a strong possibility of Munchausen by proxy, with maybe some underlying known etiology to explain for her symptoms." Well, guess who never went back? Yeah, because if you don't believe her, she's out, right?
Exactly.
So Gypsy believed her mom. She didn't really have any reason not to, right?
Right. I mean, as a child, if you're raised with this your entire life, you've been sick your whole life, this is what your parents tell you, why would you know any different?
Yeah. Yeah. But when she was a teenager, she found her Medicaid card, and it listed her date of birth at 1991, not the 1995 that she had been told. So for most of her life, she thought she was 4 years younger than she actually was. And that planted a seed of doubt in her, as well as that doctor's visit that was so sus. And then she started thinking about the fact that she wasn't allowed to speak at doctor's appointments, that she'd been physically abused and chained to her bed and hit with hangers. And she went from thinking that her mom was this saint rock star taking care of her disabled self to realizing that she was actually a monster and she was terrified of her.
Yeah.
So she meets a man on the internet, and she created a secret Facebook account and used that to and got on a Christian dating site. And this is where she met Nicholas Godejohn. And so, of course, this is when things kind of started coming together. Now, Nicholas had been arrested for watching porn in McDonald's. What the fuck, Nicholas? He'd had some legal troubles and some emotional issues and whatnot. But at any rate, he was so in love with her.
Yeah.
And when she brought up the idea that maybe they knock her off, he was all for it.
Yeah.
So, of course, they came up with a plan, and he snuck into the house and stabbed Dee Dee to death while Gypsy hid in the bathroom. And they fled to Wisconsin. So then, of course, they were caught. And again, Gypsy, of course, was sentenced to 10 years. Nicholas was sentenced to life.
Right.
They have since broken up. And Gypsy's actually engaged to a man that she met as a pen pal while she was in prison.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. So that's those are the nuts and bolts. There's a lot more. And again,
Oh
there's a lot of
yeah, it's a
documentaries out if
huge
you're
story.
interested. But she will be a free woman in December. And then, well, actually kind of glad. I hope the person she's engaged to isn't a complete piece of shit because she's really going to need some help. Though
Well,
she
she
does
has
have a fair amount
no
of
real
family.
skills.
Yeah, she does have a fair amount of family, and but I don't know how they will, react to her, or they won't. Uh, from the
Right.
documentaries that have been written and the articles, it seems like they were all very much not on Team Dee Dee. But everyone, I think, has to remember that this was a child that had been
Yeah.
conditioned to this her whole life.
Right. Well, and really saw no other way out. Like
Yeah.
her mother was never going to let her go.
Oh no. Mm-mm. No, definitely not. So again, curious to know, what do you think? Yes, she should get out. No, she should be in jail forever. Yes, she was a Munchausen's kid. No, you think she was in on all of this? Where do you stand? What do you think? Curious to
Yeah.
know. I have my
Very
own
interesting.
feelings about it, but I'm always curious for the commentary if it's
Yeah,
respectful. You guys are really good at that. So, yeah.
for sure.
So that's what's up.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. I read that over the weekend, and I have to say honestly, I'm happy for her. I hope that
I
she
am too.
changes her name and disappears into the world and
Yep.
actually gets to live a life.
Hmm. She needs to. What she needs to do is change her name and get completely out of the public
Yeah.
and not do a single thing that makes the public, you know, don't you dare put up a GoFundMe or do
Yeah.
anything that is
No, just
attention seeking, money seeking. Don't do any of those things. You just go have a life.
yeah, exactly. All right. Well, that's it. This is our Monday episode. We'll be back with more on Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll also be back Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain for our case updates live stream. You don't want to miss that. And you know it. We are the True Crime Squad. Thanks for being here.
Take care.